Okay, so the last time we had a community call, I should say for the recording, my name is Brian King. I'm the community manager for Eclipse Cloud DevTools working group. Our last community call was, I think, way back in October, November timeframe. So obviously it's time to do another one, and we are going to be doing these on a quarterly cadence moving forward. So expect the next one in 3 months. There's always plenty happening in our community. There's a lot going on, and that's what we're going to showcase today. So the agenda for today is a little introduction by the working group chair. That's Tim DeBoer of Red Hat. And then we're going to get updates from our projects. We have some project leads and other community members doing that. And then I'll jump in and I'll give some program updates on lots of the good stuff that we're doing to help support our projects and other work. And then my colleague Clark Roundy is going to do some marketing updates. So let's jump right in. Tim, I believe you are here. Do you want to say a few words?
Hi, Brian. Thanks. So there are many places that open source tools are being built across the internet, supporting cloud-based development. But Eclipse is really the home where multiple vendors come together and work on projects, and we have a whole framework and environment for us to collaborate together in open source. And going above just the individual projects, Eclipse also gives us a home for looking across the set of projects, how they work together, and how we can make people aware of those projects, encourage adoption of them, and help promote those projects. So we have a working group at Eclipse with a number of member companies that we'll see in a minute. And really our goal is to just, again, step a level above the individual projects and help promote them, talk about what we can do as a community to get these tools out there, encourage adoption, participation of them. Next slide. There are many individual projects that are part of the Eclipse Cloud Tools, Cloud DevTools top-level project. Some of the biggest ones that we'll hear about today are Theia, which is an extensible IDE platform. Eclipse Che, bringing the IDE to Kubernetes, having developer workspaces in the cloud, OpenVSX registry, a vendor-neutral marketplace for IDE extensions. And then again, there are many other tools, from diagramming tools, Maven tools, visualization. And there's even other IDs and tools. So there's quite a broad landscape here of available tools in at Eclipse. Next slide. So as part of the working group, we have many companies involved. You can see a list of them here. We have some big companies, some small companies. There are, of course, individual contributors in all of the projects as well. If you're interested in becoming part of the working group, helping set the direction and participate in the marketing and strategy of this set of tools, we'd love to have you. Just follow the links and get involved with us. So thank you, Brian. That's all I wanted to say today. I'm really excited the updates we're about to hear on some of the projects.
Great, thank you very much, Tim. So at the start of the year, or late last year, rather, we were doing our planning for 2021. And we were asking ourselves, what are the big areas we want to focus on? So we came up with these 4 pillars of the program plan. So these are the 4 biggest strategic goals, if you wish. The first one is to increase product adoption. What exactly does that mean? What that means is, as Tim mentioned earlier, we have these great projects, these great platforms, and we want organizations, companies, individuals to use them, to build their tools on top of them, to create a really healthy ecosystem. this benefits, obviously we feel that our technology is ready for tool adoption. And we think it's beneficial for the community to have more people come on board. We think it will increase contributions to the project and so on, and just make it stronger in general. The second pillar is to identify collaboration opportunities across projects rather, to advance technical initiatives. So what this one is about is really finding the right technology pieces for our projects and platforms, and ensuring that all stakeholders who use them or who are thinking about using them come together and collaborate on that. The third pillar is to establish thought leadership for this group, for the Eclipse Cloud DevTools working group. We have a number of programs for that you'll see later on today. And the last one is, it's kind of obvious, and we never called it out before, but we thought it was worth being explicit about it this year to increase the membership of the working group, to build a more diverse and robust group. It's important, I think, to hear many different voices working in many different domains, building very different types of tools. So that's why we want to build out the working group. And we're already seeing success with that. Tim showed the member slide with 3 new members who primarily work in the embedded domain, for example. So our tools are becoming quite popular there. So I'm delighted to introduce some of our project leads and community members to talk about some project updates. So first up, we have Maximilian Kugel from Eclipse Source, who's going to talk about Theia Blueprint.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Just a quick update on what we've been doing there. The Theia Blueprint project within the Theia project was about the idea to give people really a jump start to build their own Theia-based products. And basically, the first goal was to enable people to very quickly grasp what the Theia platform can do for them in terms of features. So what we built is a showcase product that incorporates many of the available features into one product that you can, for now, download and run as a desktop app and see what Theia can do for you. And then starting from there, it can also be a template for you to jumpstart your development. So the idea is that you can just take the code and use that as a template to see how a product is configured. Finally, there's of course also documentation, because the next thing you would probably want to do is to customize what you get there. So customize the branding, customize the features that are bundled in this showcase product. And finally, I think it's also a great showcase to see how the different members of the ECDT working group can really collaborate together to make a difference. So this was a collaboration of ARM, who started to develop Theia Blueprint, and then ST and Eclipse Source pitched in and brought it to where it is now. And I can see that also other contributors from the ECDT, like Ericsson, are planning to also make some contributions. So that was really a good experience for us to see how different people work together to bring Theia forward. For now, what's available is this desktop version. You can download that in the link that you can see below. There's also plans to create a Docker container that just contains a browser-based version of Theia Blueprint. And there's also plans to enhance the Try Now landing page to also offer some way to directly show how Theia runs in the cloud. But that's still under discussion how that could be done. There's different providers that offer options to just run away Theia directly in the cloud. Yeah, so still in progress, but the alpha release is out. Feel free to try, and we're really looking forward to your feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, this is great work. I've been using Blueprint as my daily driver. Not that I'm a coder by any means, but from time to time I have to do some pull requests for various things. And it's great. It's pretty stable now, and I'm looking forward to further releases. Does anybody have any questions for Maximilian? Okay, well, you can jump in with questions at any time. Keep them in mind, and we'll jump to the next project update. Mario Loredo, the Che project lead, is on the call. Mario.
Yeah, hello, Brian. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. So I will provide a few updates on the new feature that we've been releasing within Che in the last 6 months or so. It's a list of the most important ones. The first one is for making faster the workspace startup in Che, and it's a component that we have added. That it's an image pre-pooling service, so it pre-pools the images that will be used in workspaces, so that when we start a workspace, the image already pooled in the Kubernetes node. Then we have introduced plugins recommendation in Che Theia, so that the default IDE in Che workspaces is Theia, so is Che Theia, so Theia that we package for Che. And now if you open a Java file and you haven't included in your workspace the Java plugin, you will be recommended to use it to start that plugin in your workspace. So Java is an example, but we have a recommendation for most of the languages that we currently support in Theia. Yeah, if you can go back to the previous slide. Yeah, so then briefly, other features are multi-root workspaces. The support of Bitbucket, we already support GitHub and now Bitbucket. So its integration with GitHub and Bitbucket means that you can use your authentication, Bitbucket or GitHub authentication to access repositories that are password protected via Che workspace. We have an experimental dev file version 2 support. There is a new specification of the dev file. That is the dev file is a file specification to define cloud workspaces. And there is a version 2 spec that is coming out used by other, not only Che, but other projects. And we have introduced this second version in the latest version of Che. And the last thing is, although Theia is our default IDE, we've been adding support for including JetBrains IDE in Che workspaces, so user can select to have another IDE, and we have been supporting. We have a basic support, but so it's initial support for JetBrains IDEs. So that's it for the new feature. So on the next slide, I've added a few things that are coming in the next 6 months. The thing we are working right now, mainly we're focusing on the Kubernetes Dev Workspace engine. So we are using a Kubernetes controller. So we're extending the Kubernetes API, so a component that extends the Kubernetes API to make the Kubernetes controller able to start development environments. That's the Dev Workspace engine. And so we are switching to that Kubernetes native component to be able to start Che workspaces. That makes it more easier to use Che workspaces and dev workspaces in the Kubernetes ecosystem. So other clients that know how to do a call to the Kubernetes API will be able to start a workspace with a call to the Kubernetes API. So we're investing a lot of time in that. And next thing is Jupyter notebooks. So that's not, we don't have that yet, but we're gonna, it's coming in our dev files. We'll have in Che, in the next releases, you will have the ability to start a Jupyter notebook inside, actually using Theia and using the Python Visual Studio Code extension. Then we are working on making the authentication mechanisms for Che more flexible, in the sense that user won't need to use Keycloak. We currently required Keycloak to use Che in authenticated mode. We are removing that requirement, and we'll be able to use other more lightweight identity providers. We're introducing post-start events in workspaces. That means that starting a workspace, we can automatically start the build of the source code, or launching an application, so that when you start a workspace, you can start testing the application and showcasing the application right away. Other important things are the backup and restore capability that we're introducing in the operator, so that that means that we can restore the status of a Che installation, so of all the users and the workspace of the different users, even after some outage, or if something goes wrong with the current Kubernetes cluster where Che is running on. Then we are working on the multi-cluster support. That means having one Che instance that is able to leverage multiple Kubernetes cluster to schedule workspaces. So that means that that's a requirement for companies or users that need to have more than 100 concurrent workspaces. So one Kubernetes cluster may not be enough. That may require multiple Kubernetes clusters. And with that, we'll have just one instance of Che that will be able to manage multiple clusters. And last, we'll after Bitbucket and GitHub, we are introducing GitLab support as well. So briefly, after this roadmap slide, I've added a slide with the contributors that we have seen in GitHub in the last four months. So these are the companies that have that I found that's based on GitHub profiles and based on activities on GitHub. But yeah, that's the list that we currently have. So we have a pretty active community, a lot of activity happening on GitHub. So if you are interested and to contribute, so just come and you will not be alone. So we have a lot of people hanging out there. So that's it for Che. So thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. And I'd just like to echo your comments about all the great work being done on the project, and a more diverse community. I turn up for the community call every Monday now, and I'm always impressed by the amount of work that the team goes through. And I'm seeing a lot of new faces on calls recently, so interest certainly seems to be high in the Che project right now, which is fantastic. Any questions for Mario? Okay. Next update, we have Mark Nouri, also of Red Hat, who's going to talk about the latest happenings with the JQ project.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for having us. For the past months, we've been working on providing some new features and improvements to Jcube, and these are some of them. We have improved the experience when dealing with custom resource fragments. So you can now deploy any custom resource YAML fragment with Jcube, just like you'd do with any other Kubernetes resource. We now even allow property replacement for this kind of fragments too. And regarding framework support, we added zero configuration capabilities for Micronaut. So now just by adding the plugin to your project, you should be able to deploy your Micronaut application into the cloud. We've also improved the Quarkus framework support, especially when inferring configurations such as server port numbers, packaging, profiles, etc. And finally, we've been working really hard to improve the experience when generating and working with Helm charts. So the main new feature is the possibility to push or upload Helm charts to online repositories. We also expect to have a new minor release ready in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. And this is all for the Jcube team.
Thank you, Mark. What version are you at right now? Because your release cadence seems quite regular. I see them coming through regularly. So you're busy, it seems.
Yeah, so we released 1.2 like a month ago, and we'll probably release 1.3 maybe next week or the other. So we'll try to keep providing minor releases in a regular cadence so we can get feedback, shorter release cycle feedback.
Great. All right, next up, OpenVSX project leads Miro Spunneman from Typefox. Miro, are you there?
Hi, yes, thanks. So regarding new features, the main thing that is being worked on at the moment is the support for web extensions. So web extension is a new format for VS Code extensions that is not yet officially documented by Microsoft. So it's basically in kind of a beta status, but there are already some quite popular extensions that have adopted that new format. And so there was some pressure to support that also in the registry. And that work is almost done. So I think we're not far from being able to deploy the necessary changes to realize that. Otherwise, the main thing is that has been working on last month mainly is on performance problems. So I think here the main issue is that there is some kind of asynchronous development in the project. So on the adopter side, we have seen the number of users and generally the number of requests to the registry instance at openvsx.org. We have seen that rising all the time. So the number of extensions that are published are rising and the number of users is rising. But on the other hand, we have not seen a lot more contributors to the problem, to the project. And so at some point we have seen the rising number of users leading to some performance problems. And at this moment they are solved with caching on a network level in the load balancer. But that has some consequences so currently the download count is not working, and so it's currently not really clear how to proceed there. So who would have some resources to spend time on these issues. And so I would just ask if anyone is interested, please join us in development of the project so we can have help from front-end developers. So the front end is based on React and Material UI. And especially we can use help from back-end developers. That's a project based on Spring with some database access and Elasticsearch as a search engine. And otherwise community building, that's about reaching out to even more extension developers and asking them to publish to openvsx.org in addition to the Microsoft Marketplace. And Brian, I think we will also hear a bit more about OpenVSX later regarding the transfer to the Eclipse Foundation, right?
Yes, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, so I think that is actually, if we look at what is the main thing that happened here from the last community meeting here, that is actually what I would see as the main milestone. So the transfer was started in December, and I think by end of January we finished the phase where we worked on contacting all the extension publishers and making sure that compliance with the Eclipse Foundation requirements are met. And so yeah, that is done, and a number of extension publishers is arising, and I think so. At least from that perspective, the project is developing in a very good shape.
Thank you, Miro. Yes, because of the compliance cutoff, we did lose some extensions back in January, February timeframe. But the good news is that we've surpassed the number that was before that cutoff, and we're racing ahead. So last time I checked, we had like about 1,060 extensions. Obviously, there's a lot to do. You know, there's a lot more extensions out there, but we're confident with the service that we offer that more and more VS Code extension developers are going to come on board and publish to the registry. Also, I think it's worth noting that there's already quite a healthy group of adopters of OpenVSX, both using the public registry and their own private versions of OpenVSX. Companies, I'll call them all out actually, there's Broadcom, Ericsson, Gitbot, of course, IBM, Onivim, SAP, Typefox, and VS Codium. And I think with the web extension support that Miro mentioned, that's the last block for Coder to adopt OpenVSX as well. So it's becoming quite a busy service, and we're quite happy to be hosting it at the Eclipse Foundation. Any questions for Miro? Okay, so before we jump into the next section, does anybody else want to give any other project updates? I can spare you a minute or two. Mark, for example, I know you're on the call. You don't have a slide, but is there anything you wanted to say about the Theia project?
I have a little slide deck that I could share. I thought that today, as this first participation, I could argue the case for Theia. Why use Theia versus something else? So that through that I can give a bit of information that I hope will generate some interest, maybe in the participating companies here that are not yet contributing to the project, or perhaps convince them to contribute even more. Though I suspect what I'll share today is not secret. You already maybe know a bit about it. So is that all right if I share my screen?
Yeah. I'll just go ahead, stop sharing. Go ahead.
Can you see?
Yes.
All right. So let's jump right in. So first, like mentioned previously, there are many companies around our ecosystem. So I think it's stemmed from Theia, and now I'm very excited that we have something like OpenVSX that is another component that is not really Theia specific, but that's sprung from our ecosystem. So you see here a few of the companies that are involved and have a product based on Theia. So in short, I would say there are 4 broad categories why you might want to use Theia versus an older IDE or VS Code. There's a 5th one that is a bit obvious for Foundation project, but it is also very important. We'll cover it as well. So just a quick note, some things are out of scope for Theia because they are handled by another layer, like the workspace server, Chi, for example, handle things like supporting multi-users, multi-tenancy, authenticating the users, creating a development environment as well. So these are things that are not in the base Theia framework because, among other things, we want to support both the cloud and the desktop IDE. So best of breed technologies, it's based on the web stack, HTML, CSS, no matter if it's the Electron or the, the browser version of the application. So from that point of view here, Eclipse is a stand-in for, let's say, the older legacy development ID technology. It's not Eclipse as such by itself that is like that. It's the generation, I would say. So we have a much more up-to-date technology stack used in Theia versus older technologies, and about equivalent to VS Code, which makes sense. We reuse some of the main VS Code components. Yeah, let's go quickly through that. I mentioned we want to support both cloud and desktop ID. So what we want to do there is to support the common use cases. So authentication is not needed on the desktop, so it's not supported in Theia as such. So from that point of view, Theia does support really well cloud and desktop usage. Classic IDs will tend to support more the desktop side of things. Maybe there are some technologies to help cloudify some of the older IDs that is better than nothing. It's a bit like post-processing 3D movies. Better than 2D maybe, but not quite as satisfying as the real native thing. Well, VS Code, there's a bit of a question mark. It seems like they're going in the direction of offering maybe a browser version, but I don't think it's quite there yet. How can we do that? We have front-end, back-end separation. So the front-end runs in the browser and the back-end runs is a Node.js application that runs on a machine somewhere. It can be your local machine if it's running in Electron, or can be remote. One really important thing that we supported from the get-go is the concept of LSP and DAP, Language Over Protocol, Debug Adapter Protocol. VS Code, we followed the lead of VS Code in this one. I know there are some older technologies that attempt to bring LSP. I know Classic Eclipse has something, but well, it's not. It's added, tackled down after the fact, I would say, a little bit. So from that perspective, Theia and VS Code are in the lead versus older technologies. Just a quick illustration. Before LSP, every language had to have its own implementation in every IDE it wanted to support it. So you have a huge number of implementations. With LSP, you can abstract that. You have a thin layer on client side, but you can reuse the server almost without effort. So all the intelligence is already provided for you. You don't need to bake it in your own IDE. And I think this is where today maybe Theia shines in its extensibility, customizability, modularity. I guess the main difference between Theia and VS Code in this case is that VS Code is an application, and Theia aims to be a framework, platform to develop many IDs. So the challenges are a bit different. You want to be generic. You want to let people do what they want with it as much as possible, customize, make it something you have never seen before. And from that point of view, I think using a framework is really good. It is the way to go to extend in a manageable way so that you can maintain that code without too much effort going forward. Of course, you can do that in VS Code. You can fork the repo and try to maintain your own product based on it. However, it might offer some challenges. Microsoft will not necessarily make your life easy. There's no APIs. It's really not a platform. VS Code. It is a MIT license ID product, we could say, or the source code is mostly available as MIT, but VS Code itself is not MIT. It's proprietary. So yeah, basically we win big. We could say that classic IDs, especially the Eclipse one, is very good about that also. You can do pretty much what you want. Maybe we nick one thumbs up for the LSP DAP that is not quite as strong. So it is an extension mechanism that is not as well supported in classic IDs, including Eclipse. What is a Theia extension? This is part of the modularity. It has a front end and a back end part that you can put together. There is one extension that is a bit special, the core, that contains most of the framework. So you pick extensions, including core and some others, and you put them together. you end up with one front-end application that has all the contribution that go to the front end, and a back-end application with all the contribution that goes to the back end. These are two applications. Front end runs in the browser, back end runs on a machine through Node.js. What is the front end? Well, this is the IDE. This is where the state is. So the UI is local. It feels local, even if the backend is far away in terms of resizing windows and doing all the local operation. It will be slightly longer if you do things that require the backend, like opening a file. However, it's not the end of the world. The UI still responds really quick. The backend offers the services, so this is where most of the meat, the resources will be taken, memory and CPU. This is where the file system is provided. It can be local if you're using Electron on the desktop. It can be remote if you're using Che or another product that bundles a Theia application. We have the support for VS Code extension through the Theia plugin system. The plugin system is implemented as Theia extensions. Dependency injection is one of the big mechanisms that makes Theia so extensible. Using it, you can swap chunks of the Theia framework code without changing the framework itself. You can do that in another extension if you like. So just wanted to mention the mechanism. It is very, very important. Here is the fifth category that I was mentioning earlier that is very, very important and almost taken for granted as an Eclipse Foundation project because this is what we're used to. But being truly fully open source. I mentioned the VS Code earlier that has an MIT license repo. So because of that, it seems like it is open source. But well, I would argue it is not truly fully open source. From that perspective, Theia, I would say, is about equivalent to the classic Eclipse platform, at least. Other older IDEs and do not necessarily share that. But yeah, with the Eclipse Foundation, you know that it's not just surface open source; it is fully so. You can. The aim is to have not only something that people can use, but something, a whole ecosystem, basically. I think OpenVSX is a good illustration of that. Though it's not part of the Theia project, it's sprung from the need for a extension registry for Theia applications, because we are not allowed to use the Microsoft Marketplace by its terms of services. And there are various important VS Code related components and services that have the same restrictions. So it's in scope for people here, but all the embedded development, a lot of it anyway, happens in C++. The C++ extension, the VS Code one, is proprietary. It contains a proprietary language and debug component. So for companies that care about being full open source, this does not fly. Another one that is really popular, the VS Code Remote extension, it's actually a family. There's 2, 3 of them. They also are proprietary in the end and non-open source, not permitted to be used in anything but official VS Code products. So yeah, we need that. It's good to have an IDE, but if you don't have a way to install extensions in it, it will not go necessarily very far. And I'm happy that at the Foundation we have this. So just in one table, roughly, again here, Eclipse stands for, in many cases, older technologies. It's not, I'm not dishing on Eclipse, as such. So yeah, technology stack, cloud and desktop, extensible platform, truly open source, and support for LSP DAP. Well, it's all checked on the Theia side. Some classic IDEs and platform have a lot of going for them and will be used for a long time, but in this comparison, they do not look as good. And then you have VS Code that has some of the elements, but not necessarily all. So it might be suitable maybe if you want to do one application, but if your goal is to make a framework that will be used to make maybe hundreds of applications, then a lot of work will be duplicated between each of these applications. So that is it. I hope that it was interesting and you learned a thing or two. Come visit us if you like. We have a Theia Dev meeting every Tuesday. Yeah, I think, Brian, you have it on your schedule, right? Event schedule or whatever you call it.
Yes,
I
we
don't
have
hear you, Brian. Yeah.
we have the Theia Dev meeting on the community calendar, which I'll give details about at the end of the call. So Mark, yeah, that was fantastic. I think you made a great case. Why Theia? You know, I think most people currently on this call, you're preaching to the converted, but anybody who's watching in on the recording, yeah, just you know, look again over what Mark was saying. I think, as I said, he makes a very compelling case. Theia is a truly open source, highly extensible platform. And again, just like OpenVSX and all our other projects, we're seeing really, really strong adoption. You know, it's maybe not quite yet 1,000, but you know, may thousands of IDEs flourish, right, built on top of Theia. So please get involved. Okay, so
I want to say I'm very excited about Blueprint. So I think there's an opportunity there. Keeping expectation maybe not too high to begin with, but many of us are on the table have internal application that have little things that are better than upstream example applications. So it is an opportunity to contribute those little things that make an application nicer. And I think Blueprint, being a multi-company effort, that's what one of the things I like about it, is a really nice target to upstream those little improvements, and it could gain traction quite fast. There's not that many open source applications that are taken care of yet out there.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Okay, now Clark and I are going to talk about some of the work we've been doing to support the working group, to support our projects. And this work is supported by many of our colleagues as well at the Eclipse Foundation. So we do have a new adopters page a few months now. It's getting bigger all the time. If you know of companies, projects, products building on top of ECD tools projects, please shoot them over a message, point them to this page. There's a handy link at the top where they can find out how to get listed. It's just a matter of opening a GitHub issue or submitting a pull request. So really healthy ecosystem that's growing all the time. The OpenVSX registry, we released a white paper. So we're seeing already a lot of engagement with that. You see some numbers there, over 7,000 paid views. We're getting a number of new contacts come in through that. And obviously we're reaching out to those contacts and trying to bring them into the community in various different capacities, either as you know, OpenVSX adopters or more broadly as members of the organization. We have another white paper coming in Q2, probably at the end of this quarter. And that's a broader one on everything we're doing at Eclipse Cloud DevTools and telling the whole story and the value proposition for our ecosystem. We got a lot of PR coverage for the OpenVSX white paper. You can see some of the headlines here. So that's great. I'm sure you've seen some of those articles fly by, but they're out there if you want to go and read them. You know, as Miro mentioned earlier, earlier this year, OpenVSX moved to become an Eclipse Foundation hosted service at openvsx.org. This is, of course, one instance of the registry, and as of now, the most widely used. And you know, as I said earlier, we've over 1,000 listings. We're seeing a lot of traffic because of increased adoption, and the project is really taking off. So, you know, behind the scenes, our IT team and others are making sure the lights are on there. We did have some performance issues a few weeks ago that had a few heads being scratched, but we got to the bottom of it, and it's functioning right now, and it's set up well for the future. We've also provided support for the Blueprint project. Clark and I did some copy editing for documentation rather, the download page, a blog post that, you know, it says pending. It went out a couple of weeks ago. Unblocking those, some infrastructure issues, especially related to building. It needs to be built on major desktop platforms. We provided new brand assets for the project. The embedded SIG is really tapping into Blueprint technology for some of the work they're doing. So we're providing support for that. And I'm going to talk about the SIG as well. So here we are. So I think it's better actually for Rob Moran, who's the chair of the special interest group, to say a few words about the work being done here. Rob, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Brian. I will
Great.
keep this short. We don't have a lot of time. And thanks for a slide as well. I was able to sort of like jump in at the last minute to come to this meeting. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the Director of Engineering for Online Tools at ARM. And I'm also the chair for the newly created Special Interest Group, which is part of this working group. And we had our inaugural meeting of interested parties on the 8th of this month, on the 8th of April. So this is where members from Eclipse Source, Ericsson, ST, and ARM came together to talk about the sort of things that we'd like to develop as part of this special interest group. So there was a lot of good... Sorry?
And Renesas as well. One of the members.
Yeah. So and Renesas as well. So there was a lot of good discussion around the sort of interests that each company's got. We're looking at extensions to debug adapters and looking at sort of quite low-level embedded stuff, as well as doing some fact-finding around what's already out there, what extensions are already available to us that we could potentially use. And we've got our next meeting next week on the 6th. We're going to come together and hopefully pick 3 or 4 high-level sort of technical initiatives, which we're going to push forward into the future and actually start working on sort of key work streams. That's all I've got to say, really. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Rob. Great progress there. I will say that there's still time to participate. You could still sign up to be part of the SIG, and I will amend this slide before distributing them to put a link to a form where you can that you can fill out to express your interest and join this special interest group. I'm not going to read through all of these. Look at the phrases in bold and you'll get an idea of the general special interest groups. There's obvious ones, about building technical standards, promoting collaboration and innovation and so on, but I think it's worth being explicit about them. And I think the embedded ecosystem is in this moment like a lot of developer tools, right, where they're deeply invested in and embedded, pun intended, in the desktop, and they're thinking about or have already started to move into the cloud. So we hope we can help accelerate that move for them. Okay, now, so I'm happy to hand it over now to Clark Randy, who's going to talk about some marketing initiatives that we've been doing.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. It's always fun to hear about the updates and what's going on in the community, and thanks for everybody that's presented. We have, in the past several months, introduced some new initiatives to help promote the community, help promote the ecosystem, help promote our projects, and we'll just kind of walk through those. This is one that we introduced in November, Cloud Tool Time, and it's picked up some pretty good traction. We've now had 7 episodes. This is our latest one that Philip provided on Eclipse GLSP. Great session. We're getting about 40 live attendees on average to each of these sessions. And the great thing is we're getting people that are coming back and looking at them later. So you go to our YouTube playlist and you will see each of these sessions are getting hundreds of views and continue to get views. So this is a program that we think's got some legs. We are committed through July right now, but we would encourage you to sign up and submit proposals for new sessions. So we've got the second half of the year that is still not committed. So please sign up and get involved. Cloud Chat is a more recent addition. This is our live stream video series, and I'm going to let Jesse Williams talk to this a little bit. We've had our first two episodes that have been recorded. They are now in edit, but I'm really excited about this series and think it's got a lot of great potential. Jesse, are you there? Would you like to take a couple minutes and talk about what this is about?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone, and thanks for having me on. So Cloud Chat is an idea that we came up with really to help build awareness by creating long-form content that can be broken down into smaller pieces of content. So if you think about how people consume media on Twitter or LinkedIn, they usually watch like a shorter clip that's focused on a very specific topic. And so that's what we wanted to do. We started off by introducing a project and a project lead or a contributor. We talk about the project a little bit so people can learn about what's going on in the Eclipse Cloud Development Tools Working Group. And then we start talking about topics in open source that either I kind of come up with from seeing what's trending on Twitter, or it might be a conversation with a project lead that I've had, or even there have been a few questions that have come through conversations with some CEOs that I've had that are considering open sourcing part of their software. So we kind of talk through things, and this could be how do you allocate resources to a project? How do you determine how many resources you want to allocate? Last week, we spent a lot of time talking with Sven from Gitpod on how to make OpenBSX registry easy to contribute to. And then we always talk on how to grow your project as well. And so these are things that our goal is to, one, make it exciting for people to contribute to a project and help them to understand that. And then also, reach out to people who are considering open sourcing their project and create content that's valuable to them as well. And then obviously we always end the episode talking about how someone can get involved with the current project that's kind of being highlighted in that episode. So if you are interested in joining, reach out to me. I'm on the Eclipse Cloud Development Tools Working Group Slack, and we're definitely looking for more guests to have on. But I like to make sure that everyone knows it's not about talking about how you've achieved success in your project. It's about your journey there. So whether you've gotten there and you can share some advice that works, or you can just talk about your strategy for growth around that project. We'd love to have a conversation around it, and it's valuable either way.
Thanks, Jesse. That's great. We're excited about it. We've also made it really easy to sign up. So for all of these programs, there's a sign up form. Click on it, walk through it. It's typically a 5-minute process, and then we'll get you scheduled and lined up. So we've also added some swag to our inventory. So a little shout out here from Mark when he received his hoodie and his mug for joining us for Cloud Tool Time.
Clark, a question about swag.
Yeah.
Is in the current run that we did, I know it was a very limited run. Is there any left? Because there might be some folks contributing to our projects watching in who might be keen to get their hands on some.
There absolutely is inventory still available. So, that's another good reason to sign up now, and we'll get you your swag out. All right, another major initiative that we started actually in Q4 is a website redesign. This is just kind of a quick sneak peek to what it is that we're doing. The imagery, much more personal in terms of the look and feel. Little brighter, color scheme. Using more of the blues and the grays and the whites to that a lot of cloud development and cloud companies use. So more on this. We're actually going to be starting implementation of this later this quarter.
Yeah, so this is for ecdtools.eclipse.org. We'll also be doing some minor design changes to openvsx.org. And we do have resources available for helping other project sites. So for example, we're helping the Theia site with some content updates initially, and down the line some design updates, and Che project, we're helping with some website updates too. So if you need any help with your website, please reach out to Clark and I.
All right, a couple other things. So we have initiated what we're calling Cloud IDE Day, which will be held in May. This is one of those programs that we're trying to establish our members as domain experts. We have received a number of great submissions. We're working through the program schedule right now. But please sign up. Please participate. This is something that we expect will be done on at least an annual basis, maybe twice a year. But this is the very first one, and we're excited to get this kicked off. EclipseCon, that I think you're all familiar with, we have opened up the call for papers. Please submit, and let's make sure that our community is well represented there. And then finally, we have kicked off a strategic research initiative with a third party. This is being fielded right now. We expect to see some really interesting developer data points that we can share with the community, and that can help us in our planning as to how we set up our roadmaps, things that we focus on as a community, and even at the project level. So we'll be publishing this in Q3 is the plan. All right, just a summary slide to point you to all of the potential resources and programs that we have available. So you got the Cloud Tool Time sign-up form, you've got the Cloud Chat sign-up form. We have kicked off a case studies program. The Eclipse Foundation does some wonderful case studies. Would love to see some of these come to the ECD Tools working group. So please sign up if you've got an interesting case study, and we'll walk you through that process. Brian and I, he mentioned this, that we've worked with several of you on blog posts. We'd love to continue that collaborative effort. So reach out to us if there's something you'd like to blog about. The new website, by the way, will have a blog just for ECD tools that we can manage a little bit more closely. Then finally, we did launch go back to that previous slide, Brian. So we did launch a new marketing services page just this week. So take a look at that, and you can see all the great resources that we have available. Whether it's PR, whether it's social media, we're here to help promote the projects, help to promote the successes. And we've got a lot of great resources available to help do that. So reach out to us if you got something you'd like to talk about, and we'll help you get your message out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Clark. So we're at the top of the hour, a few minutes past. Thanks for staying with us. It's been action-packed. I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are the ways to engage with us on the working group level and on the community level. We have our mailing list. We have our Slack, our website, of course, it's going to be overhauled very soon, and our social channels. So please join them if you haven't already. And here are some ways you can help us, getting our message out, sharing our news and so on, contributing to blog content, and so on. And this is just at the working group level. Every project, every one of our projects as well are looking for contributors. So whether you're a developer or whether there's some other way you want to help out, your contributions are very, very welcome. So please join us and join our community. So I'll see you all next in 3 months' time, rather, for the next community call. But in the meantime, please join all our other events, our cloud chats, our cloud tool times, and our conferences. So thank you all so much, and until next time.
Thanks.
So,
Bye-bye.
Bye.